September 10th, 2001, the day before 9/11, the U.S. Army released an intelligence report that said that the Zionists were pros at carrying out terrorist acts that made it appear that it was done by Arabs. Wake up, Americans. You're about to be pulled into a war with Arabs, with the Muslim world, and you're going to be made to believe that something horrible that happened to you was done by the Muslims. But it wasn't done by the Muslims. It was done by a wild card, the Israeli Mossad, that's cunning and ruthless and can carry out attacks on Americans and make it look like Arabs did it. That's not my conspiracy theory. That's the U.S. Army report.
The day before, published the day before 9/11.
You can call me any name you want to call me. That's a U.S. Army report. They warned us. They were telling us what Israel is capable of doing. The government, American society had not yet been conquered by the Zionists up to September 11. This country fell to Zionism on September 11, 2001. How did America fall so quickly and become Israeli-occupied territory? Because that's what we are. The United States of America is Israeli-occupied territory, the entire country. They took over the Congress, they took over the White House, they took over the Pentagon, they took over the CIA, they took over the Defense Intelligence Agency, they took over everything. They took over the American evangelical churches, they took over the news media, they took over cable television, they took over the whole country since 2001.
Listen up, because you're all going to want to pay attention to this. Pre-9/11, the U.S. was given several warnings by a man named Ahmad Massoud, leader, commander of the Afghan National Resistance Front. Those warnings stated that there was an imminent terrorist attack that was going to happen on U.S. soil. And his warnings were completely ignored by the administration at the time. And we all know how that ended. It ended with the World Trade Center falling to the ground, killing thousands and thousands of Americans, putting us in a 20-plus year war. Now, Massoud was assassinated 2 days before 9/11, and he's survived by his son, also Ahmad Massoud, who's following in a parallel pattern of his father's footsteps. Also, now the leader of the Afghan National Resistance Front. And Massoud is once again warning the United States that there is an imminent threat for a terrorist attack to take place once again right here on U.S. soil.
I'm wondering how long it will be before we see a terrorist attack in America. And I'm wondering if, coinciding with that terrorist attack, we will see the return of ISIS. I don't know if you guys notice how quiet ISIS seems to have been when all of this stuff is going on with Palestine. I wonder why that is. Could it be because Mossad actually controls ISIS? Could it be that at all? I mean, come off it. Do you think we're all stupid? Watch this space. Watch for the next terrorist attack that will happen in America, and watch Mossad blaming ISIS. Let's just see if this comes true.
اسمك الحقيقي واسمك الحركي بالميديا محمد ياسر ابو علاء جنسيتك ديانتك عملك
ملازم اول مساء
عملك
ملازم اول مساء
امتى جندت في الموساد؟
سنة 2000 في عام 2012.
Islamic terrorism was invented by Zionist intellectuals. In particular, the first place this had a major public showing for the first time was a conference in 1984 in Washington, D.C., organized by a certain Benjamin Netanyahu. And the idea there, this is one of the earliest appearances of the idea, was that there's a specifically Muslim form of terrorism, that Muslims are particularly predisposed towards terrorism. Well, so because the Zionists had to push out the Palestinians in order to create a Jewish state, they had to be anti-Palestinian and they had to be anti-Arab. And as a result of that, they also, because the Palestinians are mostly Muslim, not all Muslim, but it's mostly Muslim, they also had to be anti-Muslim.
I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
In the days after the September attacks, there were countless rumors about strange coincidences surrounding the events. One report about a group of Middle Eastern men spotted the morning of September 11th parked just across the river from New York City has not gone away. Investigation of their presence has led to questions about whether Israel was conducting espionage on U.S. soil. We're joined now by ABC's John Miller with an exclusive report this evening.
That's right, Elizabeth. This is a case that took the FBI and the CIA more than 2 months to sort out, while 5 Israelis waited in jail. It began when this woman was watching the Twin Towers burning from her apartment in New Jersey. She noticed 3 men on top of a van, posing for pictures with the towers burning in the background.
And I could see that they were like happy. You know, they didn't look shocked to me. You know, they didn't look shocked. I thought it was very strange.
The witness called police, who stopped the van hours later and arrested 5 men. All 5, it turns out, were Israeli. They were turned over to the FBI. Sources tell ABC News during a check of national security databases, some of the men were listed as having had connections with Israeli intelligence. At the FBI, that set off alarm bells. The FBI needed the answers to 3 important questions. Who were these men? What brought them to that parking lot on the morning of September 11th? And did they have any advance knowledge of what was going to happen that day? The men said they were just taking pictures at the time. They said they worked for a company called Urban Moving. The FBI obtained a search warrant for the company's offices.
2 SUVs were filled up with between 9 and 12 boxes and computers.
Not long after the arrests, the offices of Urban Moving were simply abandoned. Almost everything was left behind.
Asked this week about another sprawling investigation and the detention of 60 Israelis since September 11th, the Bush administration treated the questions like hot potatoes.
I would just refer you to the Department of Justice with it. I'm not familiar with the report.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained. With respect to why they are being detained and the other aspects of your question, whether it's because they are in intelligence services or what they were doing, I will defer to the Department of Justice and the FBI to answer that.
On March 6, 2002, a draft report from the DEA said it may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. Despite all of this, all the Israelis were let go without any espionage charges being filed.
Here is the very true story of what went down on 9/11. There was an instant messaging service that was called Odigo. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Odigo, O-D-I-G-O. It was Israeli owned and operated, and they had headquarters that were based 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center. Now, this is according to Haaretz, published September 26, 2011, so that is 15 days after the attack. It says, Odigo workers were warned of the attacks. That is the headline, and I'm going to read you this piece of the article verbatim. It says, quote, Odigo, the instant messaging service, says that 2 of its workers received messages 2 hours before the Twin Towers attack on September 11th, predicting that the attack would happen. And the company has been cooperating with Israeli and American law enforcement, including the FBI, in trying to find the original sender of the message, predicting the attack, end quote. And that's not all. That's not all. It's going to get even crazier. 2 weeks after 9/11, Alex Diamandis, and by the way, he was Odigo's vice president. This is the vice president of the company. Said that the messages said something big was going to happen in a certain amount of time. And it did.